I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles. He's against. Listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start.
Idaho. That was in Idaho, ruby red Idaho, that Trump won by like 36 points in the election. 12,500 people showed up yelling, "Tax the rich, fight the oligarchs." They were there to see Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC. Folks, the opposition is growing, the resistance is spreading, people are pissed right now. What's Donald Trump doing in response to make himself feel good while he's isolated in the White House after another disastrous day where he had his friend Nayib Bukele tell him, "We're going to open up more concentration camps for you, Donald." Donald's posting this. A just-out NBC poll says that MAGA is gaining tremendous support. I am not at all surprised, so I wanted to go and look at this poll. I didn't hear much about that. What are we talking about? Here's the NBC News poll. 36% of registered voters identify themselves as MAGA supporters in a March NBC News poll. 36% everybody. So Donald, do you realize that that means that 64% are not MAGA? And because MAGA is basically the Republican Party now, as you brag about, 90% of the Republican Party is all MAGA, isn't that what you say? So what you're admitting is that right now, the opposition to you is about 64%. Let's keep growing opposition, let's keep growing resistance. Oh, then Donald Trump posted this earlier. The best definition of intelligence is the ability to predict the future. Oh, like you and Marjorie Taylor Greene and other MAGA Republicans did, well what, like with all of this market manipulation taking place, is that what you mean, Donald? Take a look at this as well. For the first time since May 2021, more voters now trust Democrats than Republicans to handle the economy and also many other issues. Foreign policy, taxes, economy, trade, energy, Medicare, Social Security by +18, healthcare by +15, women's reproductive rights +22, and LGBTQ rights by +33. What's Donald Trump doing with his authoritarian buddy Nayib Bukele? Just take a look at some of these weird messages that Blally and the White House have been posting. The White House posted this photo of Nayib Bukele, the authoritarian leader of El Salvador, who's been taking kidnapped migrants from the United States and putting them into extermination camps in El Salvador. Nayib Bukele responds to the White House account, "I miss you already, President T." And then Nayib Bukele posts this weird photo of Donald Trump with his arm around his shoulder saying, "Friends, friends," with the El Salvador flag. As our editor-in-chief Ron Filipowski writes, so let me get this straight. We traded Canada, Australia, Europe, and other allies for some guy in El Salvador who builds concentration camps or extermination camps for a profit. That's what Donald Trump views as strength when it's weakness. You think about it, Trump views Viktor Orban in Hungary as being powerful, a failed state in Europe, a pariah state. Donald Trump views Javier Milei, the leader of Argentina, where, what? The poverty rate's like 40% there and the inflation is skyrocketing. Donald Trump views that as strength. Donald Trump views Nayib Bukele. You want to give him some facts about El Salvador? The entire GDP of this poor Latin American country, about 34 billion. What, compare that to Canada? About 3 trillion in Canada. Also, the poverty rate in El Salvador is about 25%. 10% of the population live in extreme poverty, and it has the highest incarceration rate per capita. That's the part that Donald Trump likes, anywhere in the world. That's the part that Trump thinks is tough. They incarcerate everybody without due process. This is a new headline from Politico, with Trump's meeting with Bukele. Trump's "nothing I can do here" stance is unusual for a president who prides himself on strong-arming other world leaders to do his bidding. Trump's new favorite authoritarian is helping him sidestep court orders. Now, we've reported about this in length, and in fact, we predicted what was going to happen. Go back to our Substack at midaskplus.com. We predicted the whole thing before it went down. We said Nayib Bukele was going to go in and Trump was going to say, "Hey, the court just ordered." The Supreme Court said that I had to facilitate the return of Abreu Garcia, the Maryland migrant who the Trump regime kidnapped and put in a concentration camp in El Salvador. And Trump's like, "But I did facilitate it and there's nothing I can do because the leader of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, says he can't return him, so I guess we're stuck. See you later." What I guess I didn't predict is that where the Trump regime was going with this as well is their propagandists like Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who's really just like a Fox News PR flack for state regime media, and Stephen Miller, Donald Trump's other propagandist, and Christine Noem, the dog killer Homeland Security Secretary, that they would say actually the Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling said we win, that we have the right to do what we're doing and not return Abreu Garcia. No, the Supreme Court's 9-0 decision literally said the opposite. It said facilitate the return of Abrago Garcia and then go through proceedings as though he was not, and here's the direct language from the Supreme Court, improperly taken and put in El Salvador. But the Trump regime wants to take a stand here because what they said in the Oval Office as well, which we reported on, is blee, and Trump said, we need to get some of those homegrown Americans into those facilities. Can you build 5 more concentration camps for Americans? Yeah, Donald Trump's talking about sending American citizens to extermination camps. Go back and watch the videos. We show the hot mic, we show what he said, and you can judge for yourself. I mean, we literally play the clip. Go back and watch the Midas Touch podcast as well, on audio, and on the live feature of this YouTube from yesterday's show, where we show that clip. Let's talk about JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs are saying this. From JP Morgan, Trump 2.0 remains on track to deliver one of the largest U.S. tax hikes on record. Our revised U.S. forecast sees fourth quarter GDP at 0%. That's what they say, but still has 2 quarters of contraction, the unemployment rate above 5%. Okay, those are not good data points. Goldman Sachs is expecting 0 economic growth for 2025. We were on track for 3%. 4% GDP had Donald Trump just done nothing and let former President Biden's economy roll on. Literally, if Trump did nothing, we would have probably had, based on the Atlanta Federal Reserve's prediction, about 4% GDP growth. Now the Atlanta Federal Reserve predicts somewhere in the range of minus 3% GDP contraction for the first quarter. But what is Donald Trump doing? What's Donald Trump's focus? Attacking President Zelensky of Ukraine. Donald Trump's been spending day after day this week, frankly, like he has every single day, attacking Zelensky. Donald Trump says President Zelensky and crooked Joe Biden did an absolutely horrible thing in allowing this travesty to begin, blaming Zelensky for Russia's unlawful invasion. And then Donald Trump said it again when he was in the Oval Office with Nayib Blalli. Just think about it. You have Donald Trump giving Nayib B. Kelly, this 2-bit authoritarian leader from a poor Latin American country, El Salvador, with the highest incarceration rate, who's taking kidnapped migrants from America and putting him in extermination camps, and Donald Trump's attacking Zelensky of Ukraine, a war hero who's standing as a bulwark against Russia taking over Europe and standing up valiantly, and Trump and Blalli laughing, and Belly's chin is up like, oh yes, Donald, as they attack Zelensky, someone who's truly showing what it means to be courageous here. Play this clip of what they were.
President Zelensky serve out his offer to purchase more Patriot missile batteries?
Oh, I don't know. He's always looking to purchase missiles, you know. He's against, listen, when you start a war, you got to know that you can win the war, right? You don't start a war against somebody that's 20 times your size and then hope that people give you some missiles.
Also, I would be remiss if I didn't share with you this photo of J.D. Vance destroying the College National Football Championship trophy. Actually, that's an AI image. Here's what went down. You can see, anything about the national champion, the College Football National Championship trophy. Like, just Google it. It's 2 different pieces, what you have to hold. And of course, J.D. Vance didn't do his research, so he grabbed, part of it, and then the entire trophy fell apart while he was holding it. Another There's nothing J.D. Vance can do right, okay? Because he's literally the biggest phony in the world. By the way, I'll do a whole other video on this. Keep checking back every 90 minutes on our YouTube channel. I'm gonna do one about universities like Harvard now finally standing up to the Trump regime. But Harvard, represented by 2 Republican lawyers, one who worked for the Trump administration, another who worked for George W. Bush, representing Harvard punching back against Donald Trump when Trump wanted to take over Harvard and turn Harvard University into a vassal entity controlled by Trump. And Trump was going to audit the students' viewpoints to make sure that they were saying, like, enough MAGA things, like real crazy dangerous fascist stuff right there. I'll show you this as well. This is the moment where Nayib Bukele said that he didn't have the power to return Abrago Garcia to the United States. I'm an authoritarian, but I don't have the power. I don't have any power at all here. Play this clip. How
can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal,
yeah, there's a fascination.
They would love it.
Yeah.
Also, we're learning that tariffs, the Trump tariffs, are expected to raise new home costs by about $9,500. I think it's actually going to be significantly more than that. Finally, let me play you this right here. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeff. Give him some credit. Hakeem Jeff has been fighting back, putting together, I think a real strong strategy. Right now with Democrats going into red districts, I like that. Hakeem Jeff now is calling out MAGA Mike Johnson, demanding MAGA Mike Johnson debates. I understand that we think that there can be a lot more fighting, but I think it's heading in the right direction. Here's Democratic leader Hakeem Jeff. Here, play this clip.
To comply with the Supreme Court's directive, and the Supreme Court and/or the federal district court actually needs to enforce its order. And the vehicles that are available for the court to do that relate to contempt. And that contempt can be directed at a variety of different members of the Trump administration, including but not limited to the Secretary of State and/or his or her designees, and the Secretary of Homeland Security and/or his or her designees for the court to determine.